The year was 2125. Earth had come a long way. Humanity had reached heights no one had imagined just a few centuries earlier. Technology had advanced at a rapid pace, and space exploration had become the new frontier. The people of Earth had once looked up at the stars in wonder, hoping to find answers to the questions that had plagued humanity for centuries. Are we alone in the universe? Little did they know, the answer to that question was about to change everything. It began with a strange signal. At first, it was just a whisper, a faint, almost imperceptible hum that echoed through the deep reaches of space. Scientists at the Earth Space Monitoring Station, located in the heart of the Sahara Desert, were the first to notice it. Dr. Isabel Carter, one of the leading scientists in the field of extraterrestrial communication, sat at her desk, sipping a cup of coffee when the alarm went off. It was subtle at first, a blinking red light on her console. Then the beeping began, a rapid series of clicks that grew louder with each passing second. Her fingers flew over the keyboard as she tried to make sense of the data. The signal didn't fit any known patterns. It wasn't from any satellite or any human-made device, and it was coming from deep space. "Isabel, you need to see this," a voice called from behind her. It was Commander James Wells, her longtime friend and colleague. He looked tense, his eyes fixed on the screen that displayed a jumble of numbers and symbols. "What is it?" Isabel asked, not looking up from her work. "It's not just a signal," he said. "It's a message." Isabel's heart skipped a beat. The possibility of communication from an alien civilization had always been a dream, a theory. But now, the reality of it was standing right before her. She quickly ran a set of decryption algorithms, trying to make sense of the strange code. The machine hummed and buzzed as it worked. It took only a few seconds for the screen to blink, and then the message appeared in clear text. "We are watching you." Isabel stared at the words. Her mind raced. It wasn't just a signal, it was a warning. Someone or something out there had been observing humanity. But who? And why? She typed rapidly, trying to get more information from the message. But it was clear now. The signal was directed specifically at Earth. "James," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. This isn't just some random signal. It's intentional." Commander Wells moved closer, looking over her shoulder at the screen. His expression was a mixture of awe and concern. "What do you think they want?" "I don't know," Isabel replied. "But this is big. This is something we've never dealt with before. We need to notify the UN and the global leaders immediately." As the words left her mouth, the station's alarms went off again. But this time, the message wasn't on her screen. It was on every screen around the world. The same message, "We are watching you," appeared in thousands of languages, flashing across the news, government monitors, and social media. Humanity had just been put on notice. The world erupted into chaos. Governments scrambled to respond. Military forces were put on high alert. News outlets broadcasted the message repeatedly, but no one knew what it meant. Was it a threat, or was it a sign of something greater, something humanity couldn't yet understand? Isabel and Wells were rushed to a secure location to meet with world leaders. It was there that they learned the full scope of what was happening. The signal had come from a point in space far beyond the reach of any human-made craft. It was clear now that this wasn't a one-time occurrence. It was the beginning of something much larger, something much more dangerous. As Isabel sat in the conference room with the UN representatives, her mind kept racing back to the message. "We are watching you." What could it mean? Was it a warning, or was it something more? And what was the true purpose behind this mysterious presence? While world leaders debated, Isabel found herself staring out of the window. She could see the lights of the city twinkling below, but they felt so small, so insignificant compared to the vastness of space. For the first time in her life, she felt the full weight of what it meant to be human. Alone, perhaps, but not alone. The universe had been watching, and now it had made its presence known. A voice broke her thoughts. It was Commander Wells, standing beside her. "Isabel, you're thinking too much about this. We don't have answers yet." "I know," she said, her voice distant. "But there's something off about this. The way they phrased the message, it feels like we're being judged." Wells didn't answer. He simply nodded, as if he knew she was right. And in that moment, Isabel realized that humanity might not be prepared for what was to come. The meeting dragged on, and by the end of it, the world's leaders had come to one conclusion. They needed to prepare. For what? No one could say for sure. But the message from the stars had raised a terrifying question. Who, or what, was watching humanity? Later that night, Isabel and Wells stood outside the building, looking up at the sky. The stars sparkled above them, and for the first time, the silence felt heavy. It wasn't just a quiet night. It was as though the universe was holding its breath. As they stood there, a deep rumble shook the ground. Isabel's heart leaped into her throat. The earth trembled beneath them, and the sound of something massive tearing through the atmosphere filled the air. Looking up, they saw the flash of lights in the sky. Bright, impossibly bright. Isabel's breath caught in her throat as she realized what it was. Above them, a fleet of ships, massive, sleek, and silent, appeared, hovering above the earth. The message was no longer just words. It was real. Humanity was not alone. And the world had just received an invitation, or perhaps a warning, from something far beyond their understanding. The alien ships loomed in the sky, their sheer size and silent presence an awe-inspiring sight. Every city around the world had its eyes fixed upward, and the collective breath of humanity was held in suspense. The ships hovered, motionless, casting long shadows over the earth. "We have been watching you," the voice intoned, its power undeniable. "For centuries, we have observed, we have waited. And now, the time has come for you to prove your worth. You are not the only species we have watched. But unlike the others, you have shown potential. Your history, your mistakes, have been long. Your path to this moment, full of error. But we see something in you, something worth saving. But only if you can prove it. You have one chance, one moment. Fail, and you will be forgotten. You will not be remembered by the stars." The voice fell silent, and a chill spread across the planet. What did this mean? Was humanity truly being tested? Dr. Isabel Carter stood at the center of the chaos, her mind racing. The message was clear, but its implications were still unclear. There was no immediate threat, no attack. Yet the weight of the words hung in the air, a constant reminder that humanity's future was now in the hands of beings far beyond their understanding. "We will give you time to prepare," the voice continued, breaking the silence again. "But the test will come. Be ready." The transmission cut off as suddenly as it had begun. For a long moment, there was nothing but silence, an eerie, deafening quiet that seemed to consume the world. People stared at the screens, at the ships above them, unsure of what to do next. Isabel's thoughts were a whirlwind. How was humanity supposed to prove its worth? And what were these aliens truly capable of? Were they simply a higher intelligence watching, waiting, judging? Or were they something darker, something far more dangerous? The questions weighed heavily on her mind, but there were no answers. The world was on the edge of something monumental, and no one knew how it would end. The alien ships remained in the sky, unmoving but undeniably present, as if to remind humanity of the enormous challenge ahead. The stakes were higher than ever, and every nation, every individual, was left wondering. Could they rise to the challenge, or would they fall short? With the world's fate now uncertain, all they could do was wait, and prepare for whatever was coming next. As the days passed, the tension on Earth grew unbearable. People were on edge, unsure of what the alien race wanted from them or what their next move would be. Governments scrambled to make sense of the situation, but there was little they could do except wait for more signs. The ships remained in the sky, silent and unmoving, their presence casting a heavy shadow over the planet. In the meantime, humanity's leaders came together, forming a global council to strategize. No one had any answers, and yet all of them knew that the fate of Earth was hanging by a thread. Dr. Isabel Carter found herself at the center of this global effort. As one of the few people who had directly worked with the data from the alien message, she was called upon to assist in any way possible. However, the longer the alien fleet remained overhead, the more frustrated she became. Despite their looming presence, the aliens had offered nothing more than cryptic warnings. There was no direct contact, no explanation, just the unsettling knowledge that humanity was being washed. It wasn't just Isabel who felt the pressure. Commander James Wells, who had always been the voice of calm in their partnership, was increasingly on edge. In private, he admitted to Isabel that the uncertainty was eating away at him. "We don't even know what they want from us," he confessed one evening, as they sat together in the makeshift command center that had been set up beneath a secure military base. "How do we prepare for something we don't even understand?" Isabel didn't have an answer. The scientists had been poring over the data from the alien signal nonstop, but it yielded little more than vague insights. The message had come from a far-flung part of the galaxy, far beyond Earth's reach. Whatever intelligence had sent it was ancient, possibly even older than humanity itself. Their technology was beyond anything Earth had ever imagined, and the implications of that were terrifying. But even more disturbing than the silence was the knowledge that Earth's survival depended on something that could not be rushed: time. The aliens had said they would give humanity 1 year to prove its worth. A year. For a species that had only just begun to grasp the secrets of the stars, that was both a blessing and a curse. As the first few weeks passed without any further communication from the alien fleet, Earth's population began to show signs of unrest. Governments tightened control, fearing that panic would spread if the truth was revealed to the general public. But even with all their precautions, rumors ran rampant. Some whispered that the aliens were preparing to destroy humanity for its past mistakes. Others believed the silence meant that the aliens were simply waiting to see if humanity could rise to the challenge. Fear, uncertainty, and speculation dominated every conversation, from the dinner table to the global summit halls. In one such meeting, held in a secret location deep within the Swiss Alps, leaders from across the world debated their next course of action. Isabel was once again brought in to offer her insights, but even she was starting to doubt if any action could be taken that would truly prepare Earth for what lay ahead. "We've had almost a month," said one of the leaders, a representative from the United States, "and still there's no sign of aggression from them. Maybe we're overthinking this. Maybe the message was just a test of our reaction. We should show strength, show that we're not afraid of them." "No," another voice countered, the Russian delegate speaking up. "This is not about strength. It's about intelligence. We've seen nothing to suggest they're here to attack, but nothing to suggest they're here to help either. We need to be careful." Dr. Carter stood silent, watching the debate unfold. She had long since realized that the world's response to the alien presence was fragmented, with each nation choosing its own path, driven by fear or ambition. Some wanted to engage peacefully, hoping that their scientific advancements might win them favor. Others wanted to prepare for war, arming themselves in case the alien fleet decided to strike. Finally, Isabel spoke up, breaking the deadlock. "The aliens gave us 1 year," she said quietly, her voice carrying the weight of what they were all thinking. 1 year to prove ourselves. But proving ourselves means more than just showing our strength or our intelligence. It means proving we are worthy of existence in this vast, unknown universe. And that's something no one can do alone. We have to come together, as a species. The room fell silent. The words hung in the air, and for the first time since the alien fleet had appeared, there was a sense of unity among the world's leaders. Isabel knew it wouldn't last. The world's divisions ran too deep. But for that brief moment, the idea that humanity had to unite in order to survive was enough to shift the tone of the meeting. Commander Wells, who had been standing nearby, stepped forward. "What do you suggest, Dr. Carter?" he asked. "We have to work together, across borders, across ideologies," Isabel said, her voice steady despite the weight of the task ahead. "We need to pool our resources, our knowledge, and focus everything we have on understanding the aliens, understanding their technology, their history. And more importantly, we need to show them that we have learned from our past mistakes." "But what if they're just waiting for us to fail?" Wells asked, his tone skeptical. "That's a possibility," Isabel replied. "But if we don't try, we'll never know. We have to rise to this challenge, not just for survival, but for our future. We have to prove we deserve our place in the stars." As the meeting ended, the weight of those words lingered in the room. The year had begun, and with it, humanity's greatest trial. The next few months would be crucial. Every decision, every action, would shape the outcome of this unprecedented encounter. But one thing was clear. Humanity's survival depended not just on its ability to fight or negotiate, but on its ability to unite as one species for the first time in history, to face an uncertain future. And in the back of her mind, Isabel couldn't shake the feeling that whatever lay ahead, the worst was yet to come. The days that followed the meeting were a blur of activity, urgency, and confusion. The message from the alien fleet hung over the world like a dark cloud, casting a shadow over every decision made. Governments began mobilizing, pooling resources, and convening global councils to figure out the next steps. The plan was clear. Humanity had 1 year to prove its worth. But how could they even begin to understand what the aliens truly wanted from them? Was this a test of their intelligence, their morals, their power? Or was it something far more profound? Something that transcended anything Earth's civilizations had ever considered? Dr. Isabel Carter was thrust into the center of this global effort. The weight of humanity's survival seemed to rest on her shoulders, and she felt it with every passing hour. She was one of the few experts in alien communication, yet even she was at a loss. The alien message was cryptic, its tone ominous, and its implications enormous. How could humanity prove itself worthy when it didn't even know what the test was? The global council that had formed in the wake of the alien arrival had been tasked with overseeing the response. It was a coalition of scientists, diplomats, military leaders, and economic advisors from every major country. They worked tirelessly, round the clock, trying to anticipate the aliens' next move. But with every report, every simulation, the answers remained elusive. Isabel's days became a whirlwind of late-night strategy meetings, long hours of studying the alien message, and conversations with world leaders desperate for answers. She felt the pressure mounting. There were so many unknowns, so many questions, and the clock was ticking. What if the aliens were already making their decision about humanity's fate, watching from above as Earth bumbled its way through this momentous challenge? Despite the chaos, one thing became clear to Isabel. If humanity was to survive, it needed to unify. For decades, humanity had fought against itself. War, greed, and division had plagued the world's history. But now, with the alien fleet hanging overhead, those old rivalries seemed insignificant. To survive, Earth had to present a united front. The failure to do so would mean certain destruction. But even as Isabel worked tirelessly on this new mission of unity, she knew the challenge would be immense. It wasn't just about creating a global alliance of governments. It was about bringing together people, cultures, and ideologies that had long been at odds. The most powerful nations, those with the greatest technological resources, had the loudest voices. But how could they make room for smaller, poorer nations whose survival was just as important? How could they prove that every human life, regardless of nationality or status, mattered in the face of this otherworldly judgment? Isabel's thoughts were interrupted when Commander James Wells came to visit her in the small research lab she had set up at the headquarters. His face was drawn, his usually calm demeanor now marked by concern. "Isabel, we have a problem," he said quietly, his eyes scanning the room. "What's going on?" Isabel asked, already sensing the weight behind his words. "We've intercepted another message," he said. "It's different this time. It's not just a warning, not just the cryptic words we've heard before. This is something more direct. The aliens are giving us an ultimatum." Isabel's heart sank. She had hoped that the message of the previous weeks had been a test, one that would end with a chance for humanity to prove itself. But this, an ultimatum, that sounded far worse. "Give me the details," she said, her voice sharp. Wells handed her a data pad, and Isabel's eyes scanned the transmission. The alien voice was deep, like thunder rolling across a distant sky, and the words were clear. "Your time is running out. You have 1 year to prove your worth. Failure to do so will result in the end of your existence. We will be watching your every move. We will be judging your progress. If you do not meet our expectations, we will not hesitate to eliminate you." The words hit Isabel like a punch to the gut. There was no ambiguity now. The aliens weren't just observing. They were preparing for the worst, and their patience was running out. The message ended abruptly, leaving Isabel in stunned silence. The pressure was now unbearable. The aliens had set a deadline. In 1 year, humanity would either prove its value or be wiped from existence. She couldn't help but wonder, what kind of expectations could they possibly meet? And what could humanity do in a year to prove that they were worthy of survival? Wells looked at Isabel, his eyes filled with uncertainty. "What do we do now?" Isabel felt the weight of the world on her shoulders as she answered. "We have no choice but to push forward. We need to unite the world, bring all of humanity together. We need to demonstrate that we've learned from our past mistakes, that we're capable of doing better. If we don't stand a chance." It wasn't a perfect answer. It wasn't even an answer with any guarantee of success. But it was the only answer Isabel had, and in the silence that followed, she knew the next steps were critical. The fate of every person on Earth depended on humanity's ability to prove that it was no longer the flawed species it had once been. In the weeks that followed, the urgency of the situation became even more apparent. The Global Council worked nonstop to form a unified plan of action. Scientists, military strategists, and diplomats from every nation contributed their knowledge. But it quickly became clear that the problem wasn't just technical or military. It was about proving humanity's capacity for change, for unity, for growth. As time wore on, cracks began to show. Not all nations were willing to work together. Tensions rose, and old conflicts resurfaced. The aliens, it seemed, had not just sent a message about survival. They had awakened something deep within humanity. A desire for power, a need for control. Some countries pushed for more aggressive tactics, while others called for peaceful negotiations. Isabel couldn't help but wonder if the aliens had expected this. Had they known that humanity's divisions would be its biggest obstacle? But there was still hope. Isabel could feel it, even as the challenges grew. Earth wasn't just a collection of nations. It was home to billions of individuals. And for all the flaws, all the division, there was still something fundamentally human that set Earth apart from the rest of the galaxy. The ability to change, the ability to adapt. In the next year, humanity would have to prove it. Would they rise to the occasion? Would they put aside their differences and show the universe that they deserved their place among the stars? Or would the alien fleet, poised above them, become the final reminder of humanity's greatest failure? The world felt like it was teetering on the edge of a precipice. With each passing day, the pressure to prove humanity's worth grew heavier. The alien fleet remained silently suspended above Earth, an unyielding presence that seemed to loom over every decision, every action. Dr. Isabel Carter, once a scientist focused on the mysteries of space, now found herself at the forefront of humanity's greatest trial. Her thoughts were consumed with one question: how can we prove ourselves? The Global Council, now in full swing, had formed a plan, an ambitious, risky plan. The next year would be a test of every aspect of human society. The world would unite to tackle its greatest challenges: climate change, poverty, war, inequality, and the endless cycle of destruction that had plagued humanity for centuries. But was it enough? Was it really possible to change the course of history in such a short time? Isabel's role had become more than just one of scientific inquiry. She was now a diplomat, a symbol of hope, a leader among leaders. She sat at the table with representatives from every major nation, working tirelessly to create a unified front. Every country brought its own struggles, its own priorities, its own history of conflict. But now, they had no choice but to cooperate, to face their flaws, and confront the reality that Earth might not be given another chance. In the first months after the alien ultimatum, Earth began to show signs of progress. Across the globe, environmental initiatives were launched. Renewable energy projects began to replace fossil fuels. Massive planting efforts began to restore deforested areas. Clean water and sanitation projects were implemented in the poorest regions. Humanitarian aid began to flow more freely, and efforts to end wars and conflicts were intensified. It was clear that humanity was taking action, but the question remained, was it enough? Isabel, along with Commander James Wells, traveled to key locations around the world, witnessing the changes firsthand. They visited the farthest corners of the Earth, from the polluted cities of Asia to the devastated rainforests of South America. Everywhere they went, there was a sense of urgency. People were finally beginning to realize that this wasn't just a question of survival. It was a chance at redemption. A chance to prove that humanity had the potential to be something greater than its history of violence, greed, and destruction. But even as progress was being made, cracks began to show. The challenges were too vast, the old habits too ingrained. Some nations resisted, unwilling to let go of their power or resources. Others saw the alien presence as an opportunity to assert dominance, hoping that by showing strength, they could somehow win favor. Tensions between countries simmered, and distrust ran deep. The fear of failure, of extinction, was palpable. Isabel felt the weight of the world pressing on her every time she sat down with the Global Council. As the months passed, the sense of urgency began to feel like a ticking time bomb. Every decision seemed critical, every move filled with consequences, and yet she couldn't shake the feeling that the aliens were watching, waiting for the smallest sign of weakness, the slightest failure to meet their expectations. One evening, as she sat alone in the dimly lit council chamber, Isabel couldn't help but feel a deep sense of despair. Was it possible for humanity to change so fundamentally, so quickly? The clock was ticking, and they hadn't even begun to address the greatest challenge of all, the question of what the aliens truly wanted. What was the test they were waiting for? Was it enough to simply stop fighting and start healing, or was there something deeper that humanity needed to prove? She glanced out the window, her thoughts heavy. The stars sparkled brightly above, but the alien fleet remained silent and unmoving. She could feel their gaze, their presence, a reminder that the clock was ticking. Humanity had no time left for doubt or indecision. It was then that a new message arrived, a message from the alien fleet. This time, it wasn't a voice. It wasn't even a series of cryptic words. It was something else, something far more personal. The message was broadcast to every screen, to every television, every device across the globe. The words, written in every language, appeared as if by magic, as though the aliens were speaking directly to humanity. The message read, "You have begun to change. You have shown potential, but change is not enough. The test is not only in what you can do for your planet, it is in what you are willing to do for each other, for all of your kind, for those who have no voice, for those who suffer, for those who have been forgotten. We have seen your power, your intelligence, your strength, but what we seek is something else." The words struck Isabel deeply. She read them again and again, trying to decipher their meaning. What we seek is something else. Was it compassion they were looking for, a sense of unity, or was it something even more fundamental? The aliens were not asking for technological progress or military might. They were asking for something humanity had often failed to demonstrate: empathy. In the days that followed, the message began to sink in across the globe. People everywhere began to shift their focus, not just on the environment, not just on technology, but on each other. Nations that had long been at war began to share resources. The rich began to contribute more to global efforts. Even the most entrenched political leaders started to make sacrifices for the greater good. Slowly but surely, the world was coming together, not just to save the earth, but to save each other. But was it enough? As Isabel watched the changes unfold, she couldn't help but wonder, what would the aliens do now? Would they be impressed by humanity's newfound unity, or would they dismiss it as too little, too late? It had been a long, hard road, and the year was drawing to a close. Time was running out. And then the final message came. The alien fleet descended. Slowly, carefully, they approached Earth. And this time, there was no cryptic message, no ultimatum. The ships hovered above, casting long shadows over the land. For a moment, the world stood still, as if holding its breath. And then, without a word, the alien ships began to descend lower, closer to Earth, as if to embrace the planet. For the first time, they showed a sign of recognition, of approval. Humanity had passed the test, not with technology, not with weapons, but with something far more powerful: unity. The countdown had ended, and humanity had proved itself worthy. The day the alien ships descended was the day the world changed forever. For months, humanity had been grappling with the unknown. There had been no certainty, only fear, hope, and the overwhelming sense that the Earth's future was in the hands of beings far beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. But as the alien fleet moved lower toward Earth, a strange calmness swept over the planet. The air, once thick with tension, now felt expectant, charged with the possibility that humanity had done enough. The final test had arrived. Dr. Isabel Carter stood with Commander James Wells in the observation room of the Global Council's command center, watching the alien ships descend from the sky. It was a breathtaking sight. The ships, massive and silent, glided down with a grace that seemed at odds with their sheer size. The world's most powerful telescopes had shown glimpses of their technology: glimmering surfaces, energy fields pulsing softly, and structures so advanced that human minds could barely comprehend them. But now, they were here, right above them. It was then that Isabel realized how far they had come. She had been a part of a team working to understand the aliens' cryptic messages, but it wasn't until this moment, this silent, tense moment, that she truly understood what humanity had achieved. The world had come together in ways no one had thought possible. They had faced their deepest flaws, their divisions, and their pride. And somehow, they had overcome them. The alien ships halted just above the ground, hanging like silent giants. And then, a series of flashing lights began to pulse along the ship's surface, sending waves of energy through the air. People across the globe watched, holding their breath. Was this the end? Or was it something else? Isabel couldn't be sure. She had spent months analyzing the alien transmissions, trying to decode their meanings, trying to predict what would happen next. But in this moment, nothing seemed certain. The stillness stretched on. Then, without warning, the silence was broken. The lights on the ships intensified, and the unmistakable voice, the one that had spoken to humanity all those months ago, echoed once again, this time with even more power, more clarity. It wasn't just on the screens anymore. It was in the air, in the atmosphere, vibrating through the very ground beneath their feet. "We have watched you," the voice said, resonating deep within every human being, from the youngest child to the oldest elder. "You have changed. Your world has changed. The path you have taken, though fraught with mistakes, has brought you here. You have proven yourselves worthy of another chance." Isabel's heart raced. The words felt like a weight lifting off her shoulders. After everything, the fear, the uncertainty, the moments of doubt, Humanity had finally reached the moment of truth. The aliens weren't here to judge. They weren't here to destroy. They were here to witness humanity's transformation. "You have done what was asked of you," the voice continued. "You have shown that you are capable of change, of unity. You have faced your flaws and shown us that you can rise above them. But this is not the end. This is only the beginning." The words sank in slowly, and Isabel felt a deep sense of relief mixed with awe. They had passed the test, but the alien voice made it clear that this was just the first step in a much larger journey. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, but now it would have to prove that it could grow further, reach higher, and extend its newfound unity to a galaxy far beyond Earth. The alien ships began to shift, their sleek surfaces glowing as if they were absorbing energy from the planet itself. Slowly, the ships aligned in perfect symmetry above the Earth, casting long, silent shadows over cities and forests alike. Then a final message appeared across the sky, projected in every language on Earth, glowing brightly against the darkening sky. "Your journey has just begun. We have given you 1 year to prove that you can change. But now you must show us that you can thrive, that you can build a future not only for yourselves, but for all those who will come after you. We will watch, yes, but we will also guide you. In time, you will understand the true meaning of the test. For now, rest. Your task is to grow." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving only silence in its wake. The alien ships remained suspended above Earth, their vast presence somehow comforting rather than threatening. The world exhaled in unison, as if collectively realizing that they had been holding their breath for far too long. The streets erupted in celebration, but it wasn't a celebration of victory. It was a celebration of survival, of hope, of new beginnings. People wept, laughed, and embraced, knowing that they had been given a second chance. Nations, once divided by borders, ideologies, and histories of conflict, were now talking of collaboration, not conquest. The leaders of the world sent out messages of peace, offering their thanks to the aliens who had watched over them and chosen to spare them. But they knew, deep down, that the aliens had only granted them the chance to prove their worth. It was a fragile, uncertain future, but it was a future they could shape. For the first time in history, humanity had come together, not just as individual nations, but as a species united by the understanding that their future, every individual's future, was linked. The year had passed, and they had proven that they could change, that they could grow. But now, the true test began. As Isabel stood by the window, looking up at the alien ships, Commander Wells joined her. His face, once filled with doubt and fear, now showed a quiet confidence. "We did it," he said, his voice steady. Isabel nodded, her eyes still on the sky. "This is just the beginning. We have much more to prove. To the aliens, to ourselves." The world was watching, and the aliens were watching too. But this time, Isabel felt a sense of hope she hadn't felt in years. Perhaps humanity could finally live up to its potential. Perhaps Earth's greatest mistake wasn't its actions, but its refusal to learn from them. And now, with the stars within reach, humanity had been given the most precious gift of all: time. Time to prove that it could rise above its past and create something greater for the future. A future not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. The journey ahead would not be easy, but for the first time, humanity believed it could make it. The test was far from over. But now, it was a test of hope. And hope was a power humanity had never truly believed it possessed.